Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Rausen Pereira. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday left for a week-long visit to the United States, voicing confidence that his visit would present India as a vibrant land of opportunities, a reliable partner and a global leader, as well as help impart new energy to bilateral ties with the United States. In a statement, Prime Minister Modi said he looks forward to meeting US President Donald Trump in Houston as well as in New York in a span of a few days. The Prime Minister will also address the UN General Assembly session. The Prime Minister is slated to hold around 20 bilateral meetings during his New York visit, including with President Trump. During his UNGA speech, he will focus on India's role towards development and peace and security, with no mention of Article 370, which is an internal issue, the Ministry of External Affairs clarified on Thursday. India will also host at the UN an event to celebrate the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze the Prime Minister's visit to the United States. Joining me on the program today are Rajendra Harshe, former visiting professor, Department of International Relations, South Asian University; Shilkant Sharma, former ambassador; and Alok Bansal, Director, India Foundation. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Ambassador, I'd like to begin the program with you. Let's first try and analyze and try and understand what do you think are going to be the key focus areas of the Prime Minister's visit to the United States?
I think the focus will be on bilateral relations because that's the most important aspect. And these bilateral relationship, the whole agenda of bilateral relationship with the US has become vast over the last several years, and Prime Minister himself has worked on it and his team. So the dialogue with President Trump and his team would be on that. But to get a spur to that whole process, this event in Houston is unique in its own importance, because for the first time that the US President is coming to a community kind of a gathering, and the Indian community, Indian diaspora, for them it's the high point. And Prime Minister Modi, in his first stint and the second time again, he has perfected this public diplomacy where he meets and reaches out to the Indians who live there, and they identify with him. There is a certain resonance between the Prime Minister of India and the Indians who are settled there. And that resonance is actually redounds to the credit of bilateral relationship, because the Indian community has excelled itself in the US, but it has excelled itself in computers, in engineering, in high skills, medicine, health. So they are a net value addition to the US. And so the US politicians, they realize this. As a consequence of that, when the US President meets a 50,000 strong crowd with the Prime Minister of India, it has a message. It has a message for the diaspora. It has a message for the US political system in that sense, because there are a lot of senators and congressmen who are also keen to come there. And this is a ringing affirmation of the bipartisan support that India enjoys. India is liked by both parties. We are not partisan. Sure. And over the last 20 years, the presidents from both parties have actually walked with India, hand in hand, and taken us to new strides. So with Trump, Prime Minister Modi, with renewed vigor, because he goes there first time after the election, and he has this, these democratic countries, they value immensely the kind of mandate which people come. So he has this enormous mandate of India behind him. So it has prestige in a time when in world elections you have people who, where the governments are not very stable. So here a man comes from a stable India, prosperous India, to constantly committed to meeting these aspirations of Indian people.
Absolutely.
So, and not a word of negativity. What you see, his narrative is full of positive things. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. He talks about the global issues, and as the spokesman has said, and the Prime Minister himself has said in his tweet, it is about these issues that he is going to focus on.
Right.
So that message which the Prime Minister of India carries to US is very positive, very, right. and it has an immense potential.
Okay, Professor? Talking about this community event, talking about the President of the United States being part of the Howdy Modi event, what does it suggest and what does it say about the Indo-US bilateral relationship?
I would say that we have to look at number of things. Since Trump assumed power, he tried to kind of get away somewhere from Obama's policies consistently, and he decided to think that America first and other priorities come later. So America first is his preference, and that's why towards NATO, towards WTO, or towards Paris Accord, or towards Iran Accord, he has been tightly cold, and he has tried to look at America's interests. Similarly, one more point has to be underlined about his leadership is his talk about and views about migration, views perhaps against globalization, and views also which can perhaps are protectionist. All these are realities with Trump. But when he looks at India, I think somewhere fortunately because of the chemistry, because of the way India is located, because of the way it is stable, there is a good chemistry between India and United States at this juncture. My personal feeling is issues which are coming up and in the bilateral relations, one important issue that will come up is trade relations. That there is 30 billion trade deficit and Americans are worried about it, India is also worried. Somewhere India kind of exports 47 billion worth goods to United States and imports 27 billion worth from United States. But the point is, there are several areas where Americans consider India as a high tariff area, and America has also terminated its general system of preferences as far as India is concerned in June. So trade will be one issue which will kind of dominate. Similarly, Indian diaspora abroad, they play a significant role in shaping American policy. There are 4 million people, and they can also kind of influence through their lobbies how India and America can work out. And as a talk was made about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, there are several other sub-issues which would be discussed most certainly. And in my view, Afghanistan, Pakistan, terrorism, they would also figure along with trade, and somewhere Indo-Pacific region and its significance has to figure, because somewhere together India and United States want to kind of manage China, and how they manage it together in spite of differences, that will be challenged before India and United States. In bilateral meetings, more number of issues will come out, but to me, trade, terror, political relationship, security related relationship, and diaspora, they constitute very important facets. And current kind of view of United States, which is fairly anti-globalization. Paradoxically, they wanted a new liberal world order after Bush took over in 1991. Today, America has changed. And India is willing to expand. America is not. India's current economic stage is such that we are looking for investments. We are making necessary adjustments within the economy to see outside investments also come. So this is the scenario in which I view this relationship.
Absolutely. Alok Bansal, let's talk about Pakistan now, because for a bit, of course, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has clarified that we are not going to talk about 370, we're not going to talk about Kashmir at the UNGA, because that's an internal matter and that's something that India should focus on. But clearly Pakistan is going to try to rake up this particular issue and bring up this particular issue. Prime Minister Modi is going to meet Trump, as soon as he goes there for the Howdy Modi event. He's going to meet Imran Khan on Monday and then going to meet Prime Minister Modi again on Tuesday. So how do you look at all of this?
See, there is no doubt that Pakistan's single point agenda is to raise Kashmir issue, and that's what they are going to try. And now significant fact is that President Trump is meeting both Prime Minister Modi and Imran Khan in next few days. But we need to understand, he's meeting Prime Minister Modi twice. And as Ambassador Sheel Khan Sharma said, that a US president coming for a diaspora event like this is immensely significant. It's not that US president goes like that for any event, but that actually shows the significance of Indian diaspora in US. Please understand, today Indian diaspora is the richest diaspora in US. It's actually overtaken the Jewish diaspora with a median income of $1,10,000 US. So with that sort of an income, it's a hugely influential diaspora. And
the elections in the United States also around
elections are around, and now Indians are fairly politically active. We have seen in the recent past, see, every diaspora, every community goes through stages. they are at the bottom of the rung, then they make economic prosperity, and when they are confident and that their economic well-being is assured, then you see them moving into a political field. And for some time now, Indians are fairly active in political field. We had earlier Bobby Jindal and all, and now you have Kamala Harris, half Indian, whatever you might say. She is present, and Indian diaspora is playing a very, very big role as far as US politics is concerned. So the very fact that President Trump has agreed to come because he wants to win over this Indian diaspora, which is very, very important, because by and large US Indian diaspora has been known to vote for Democrats. It's only of late that you are seeing some transition. Otherwise, there was a time, say about 10 years back, when 90% of Indians would vote for Democrats, whoever was the candidate. Now that transition is taking place. Now a large number of Indians have started voting for Republicans, and President Trump's coming here shows that he wants to make further inroads into this particular thing. The second is, of course, Prime Minister Modi is going at a very, very significant point. He is meeting a lot of politicians, and India's success story is now being told. He's being presented by Bill Gates and Melinda Gates for huge contribution to sanitation. He would be getting that 150 years of Mahatma Gandhi. We are hosting an event for that. So it is a time when we would probably try to show to the world the success story of India. And I think it's important. And from what we are gathering is that during this Howdy Modi event, this GSP issue might come up before that, or during there is actually huge speculation that President Trump might announce that the GSP status which was withdrawn, preferential status which was withdrawn in June, may be restored. So, which will be a big, big boost for India, because having done that and coming at a time when US-China trade wars are going on, it will be a big, big plus for us. And I think a time has come for India to emerge as a big economic player, a player which exports services, exports goods to all the countries. We have a favorable balance of trade with US. We also need to have similar thing with other countries, and I think if we are joining bigger trading arrangements that is being speculated about, we would be a huge power as far as economics is concerned, in the world of economics is concerned, and we'll be a huge production house. So I think this particular thing is good, and India's success will impinge on Pakistan, because the more traction that India gets, there is going to be more disillusionment within Pakistan, because Pakistani government has been selling to their people that yes, this issue has become internationalized. The Kashmir has become internationalized. The day Trump decided to participate in Howdy Modi, there was actually despondency. And now if Prime Minister Modi's visit is extremely successful, you will see greater despondency as far as Pakistani media is concerned, Pakistani population is concerned, because there are all attempts to whip up emotions on this particular issue and internationalize this issue seems to be faltering and failing completely.
Okay. Another, key focus area, Ambassador, would certainly be the UN Climate Action Summit, where the Prime Minister is to address and speak about how much India has done and what more needs to be done really as far as climate change is concerned and what as far as the environment is concerned. So we could expect something there as well. Yes,
that as I said earlier also, the agenda and the thrust of India's Prime Minister in the UN is multilateral. It's on global issues, which are the concerns of humanity. And he goes there with actual contributions like the Solar Alliance, International Solar Alliance, India's own plan for solar energy, India's own plan for moving from towards electric cars, and all these environmentally for progressive steps which India is taking under his leadership. They equip him to speak well in the multilateral forums about climate change. So I think his emphasis, and then the sustainable development goals, for the next stretch, these 15 years of them, that will also come up for discussion, where again India has been working on that. So these are the issues before the UN. He has also been talking about inequality and poverty alleviation, and as you said, as was mentioned, that the award given to by the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation for Swachhata. I mean, like a Prime Minister, he takes over this challenge and he's been pushing it, and because of his interest in it, there's a certain, as he says, andolan, so there's a certain movement to the countrywide, And you find in small towns people are conscious and sensitive about cleanliness. It will take a long while, but he has spurred this thing. So not since Mahatma Gandhi, you have a leader who talks about these things without any, with the hesitation. He himself can go and demonstrate. So there is, we have a prime minister who goes there, as the famous poem said, who can walk with the kings and still not lose a common touch. So that takes with him, and that common touch actually, compels India to speak about the common concerns of humanity, the global commons. So I think in that context, the UN appearance will have a speech which is, going to appeal to others. And it is not going to show your own dirty linen, or it's not going to show somebody else's problems, like, which is the penchant for Pakistan. They have, because of this big contrast between what India brings to the table and what these people bring to the table, there is automatically a certain, reluctance. Oh, there he goes again, that kind of a thing. So Pakistani desperation is understandable because of that also.
Right. Absolutely.
And, I found that in the last several years, whenever India is rising, they are spiteful. So all their talk about Kashmir, etc., are bahanas, are excuses to actually raise issues to tarnish India's image. But as our permanent representative said, the more low you go, higher we go. The more you stoop, we go higher. And now that's the kind of attitude that we have. It's very positive, full of energy. And this energy, he's also going to impart to the UN discourse. There's already a Quad meeting. There's already meetings with the, a number of ministers, a number of leaders.
Sure. So talking about meeting with leaders, another important meeting is going to be the meeting with the Prime Minister Modi and the business heads, which is scheduled to take place during the course of the week as well. Professor, and there has been a very positive news that we saw yesterday, Finance Minister talking about how corporate tax needs to come down.
That's right.
So all this is going to boost, the sentiment when Prime Minister Modi speaks to the business heads in the United States.
Most certainly, I would like to say that there are some antecedents to this, and that we can't ignore. First is that India has become already a major power in global economy and major polity, which has shown stability. And all ingredients of power India possesses today. He also was part of G7, and India being kind of part of G7 group, and G20, India is already present as a major country. So all this is a kind of backing that he enjoys. And what happens is, kind of new ideas which Sitaraman gave yesterday, somewhere that can stimulate confidence of investors and business in America. And that is what precisely India is wanting, because if there is overall recession in the world, somewhere ways have to be found to see that we are able to get our men and material in proper places, employ them, get the best out of them, and somewhere that can happen only when demand is not slow, when there is somewhere investments are constantly coming through, and we have firm grip over our political economy, and that effort is being made. Now, one advantage Modi has is perhaps he's among the very few world leaders today who commands respect internationally, and that's where the business community also will kind of trust his words, because this is a second emphatic victory that he has come on, and it's a second innings he's playing, and that makes a lot of difference. When investors want to get into, they don't want to go into uncharted waters or uncertain areas, and this certainty and possibility of doing. Similarly, I would also consider that India has a brain power. We have, even among the kind of different independent economists in India are also so intelligent, so capable of showing new alternatives, that even if there are moments of crisis, India knows how to come out of it. 91, when there was a crisis, India kind of made opportunity of that crisis, and where we are now, where we are, that Hindu rate of growth has given goodbye, and our economy has grown consistently for a very long time. I am sure something else will work out, a new set of ideas will come, and again India will come. I think India does extremely well when we are under crisis, and there is some crisis we are feeling within ourselves as an economy, and he has gone to kind of Houston at a right time. There is also one thing, Houston is an energy capital, and somewhere our energy requirements have to be boosted also. From Texas, we need to import crude oil. Those arguments also and those negotiations also would be on when he goes there. Similarly, nuclear power and US-India nuclear cooperation, that is also one more area which needs to be underlined. And this entire thing which was talked about, Swachh Bharat, which is such an important thing because many people outside were thinking about this dirt, and Prime Minister took it upon himself. Cleanliness is godliness. And after Gandhi, he has a state power behind him and also tremendous support. So overall impression that in General Assembly he will give will be one leader who is speaking for man and community of nations, and he will not come down to petty things like Pakistan. Kashmir is ruled out because internally India can settle whatever it has its own problems. Pakistan has no role to play. It has been made abundantly clear, and no other major power is also interested in this. So Pakistan will always do whatever ranting they have to do, but it will be ignored.
Sure.
But that's it.
Okay, all right. So, Alok Bansal, since we're here, let's talk about another aspect now altogether, because, the professor spoke about the Indo-Pacific and how it is important that India and the United States collaborate in the region. Can we expect anything on the security front and, maybe maritime cooperation and so on and so forth?
See, we have been collaborating with US, we have been a part of Quad, we have been exercising with them on the maritime issues, we have been having security exercises. And US expects India to shoulder greater responsibility as far as maintaining order in certain areas are concerned, especially in our vicinity and in this area. And I think we should see a greater collaboration in this front. In fact, as Professor said, one of the deals that is being expected is on the oil front also, because I think the first meeting that Prime Minister is having actually is with the energy company CEOs. And I think after a very, very long time, we would be importing crude from US. I think that's the latest input, and that's a very significant thing because this shows a transformation. Firstly, US has become a net exporter of energy in recent years, and I think it's after decades, if not more, that we are importing crude from US. So a new dependence is coming. Of course, then he's going on and he's meeting members of parliament also. And here I would like to say that this GSP issue, which India is seeking to get back, there is actually a bipartisan support. Almost 44 congressmen from both parties have joined the caucus, which is saying that this GSP preference for India should be restored. And so I think that would be one plus. On the security issues, let's see what he says, because President Trump's statements, what is he going to do as far as Afghanistan is concerned, is going to be essential, because he's just changed his tack as far as Afghanistan is concerned. He was negotiating with Taliban, he's pulled out, and I think in the new scenario, if he's not going to negotiate with Taliban, then India would have a greater role to play, because India has been the most successful power as far as Afghanistan is concerned, as far as popular support is concerned, as far as Indian aid is concerned. It's been the most effective in Afghanistan, and I think probably he would like to have greater presence of India in Afghanistan, which he has been saying for some time.
Sure.
And we might see greater interaction. As far as China is concerned, of course, US-China trade wars and US-China tensions will impact, and I think there will be some expectations from India on that front too. But it's difficult to speculate at this juncture.
Absolutely.
What it will be.
Right.
But overall, I think this particular visit takes it to the peak as far as Indo-US relations is concerned. Not only is the president coming for a purely Indian diaspora event, he's meeting Prime Minister twice, and I think that's significant.
Okay, closing comments now from all my guests, starting first with you, Ambassador.
Well, it's as Alok said, it's a peak because that peak represents the high comfort level which has been between our leaders and India and the US leader. It has a lot of optics because President Trump likes it, but that optics is backed by tremendous substance. There is, and this diaspora actually, this meeting is actually substance, because these people are men of substance. This is not just an empty kind of a gathering. They all bring with them enormous experience, creativity, skills. Then what has happened, like for instance, our struggle with the lunar mission. NASA came out and they said they will help us locate the lander. And so that shows the kind of close coordination that is there between India and the US in the high technology area.
Sure.
As the professor mentioned about nuclear and energy. Then about the Houston thing also, apparently there is a solution for the very large scale shipping, because we want larger ships,
Right.
and the berthing is a problem, so they are going to do it over the seas. So this is a problem solving attitude. They probably managed to scupper that issue. And so as Alok mentioned, we get this US oil, which will probably, US will probably become the biggest supplier of oil to us.
To India, absolutely.
So,
yes, all right. Yes, Professor.
One point is, what I enjoy about this summit is, Modi has been able to manage transition of United States, two regimes, Obama, the Democrats, and Trump. And he's kind of in tune, and also chemistry is matching with both, which is such a major achievement. And second important thing which I feel that I mentioned earlier is that one has to kind of work out how transition takes place in Afghanistan, where India is kind of placed vis-a-vis Taliban, and how, if Americans withdraw their troops, what will happen to India? Will Pakistan play extensive role? Then what would happen to India's investments? All this will have to be thought through in the course of time as, America decides to withdraw. And similarly, how kind of India is going to handle terror along with the United States, whether Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Toiba, all these groups have to be handled, and that also needs our attention. As far as Asia Pacific is concerned, Quad is already working towards it, and somewhere India also considers the entire region of Asia Pacific important, and Indo-Pacific for its own interests. So Australia, Japan and United States, and the constant naval exercises and also free space for commerce and trade has to be ensured. There America can be of help, and so will Japan be and Australia be, and
Right.
that has to be kept in mind.
Sure, certainly. Alok wants to close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
See, another important event which Prime Minister would be attending, and which is of extreme importance to is the strategic response to terrorism and violent extremists, which is being held by King of Jordan, and I think large number of heads of states and governments are attending. And considering India's concerns on terrorism, that would be also very, very important. Another factor is that India will be showcasing its success when we are talking of climate change, because please remember, there was not long far back we wanted a differential treatment for us because we were a developing country. We have now become an example. We have actually made a huge transition. We have managed to cut down, control our carbon footprint to a very, very great extent, and I think this will be a big thing. We are also talking about what we have done in the fronts of sanitation and other things. So I think this Prime Minister's visit to US, considering that he has had an excellent chemistry with two administrations, as Professor said, he had an excellent personal chemistry with President Barack Obama, and he's now managed to develop an excellent chemistry with President Donald Trump, shows Prime Minister's great achievement. And I think we'll be able to showcase India's achievement at this particular trip. And this, once comes back, I think it will be a crowning glory as far as India is concerned. And let's see how it works out, because Pakistan would try to raise this issue of Kashmir, 370, 35A, etc. But I think India has been categorical that this is an internal issue, and the day US government said that Kashmir is not an issue that's going to be discussed between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump, there was a huge setback for Pakistan. In fact, there was a lot of shock. They were expecting that this issue will be talked, because President Trump had earlier said that he is willing to mediate.
Right.
So I think this visit is a significant visit, and it will probably be remembered for a long time to come.
Okay, all right. On that note, then we'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it from me. See you again next time.